So today our theme is around flow. Last week we talked about grounding and how important it is to feel ourselves really present and solidly planted on the earth, to feel a sense of being centered or being grounded. And the issue is if we become too grounded, we get stuck and we become lethargic. And so we need to invoke the quality of water, or the element of water, to go with that earth. Perfect for a spring class, water and earth coming together. So when we're grounded, we feel really present, we feel really there, and then we have this ability to move and flow with the upsurge of energy that comes from the earth. And we talked a little bit about that last week. The other thing about flow or water is that the only way our joints really lubricate themselves is through movement. So we bring the quality of lubrication to our joints when we move them. And so in things like arthritis, where the joints are often sore, there's a tendency not to want to move because it hurts to move. And unfortunately, we do still need to move. And then really discerning the difference between movement that sort of feels a bit creaky, but things start to loosen up, versus movement that creates sharp pain or real discomfort, in which case you want to avoid that and definitely get it checked out. If every time you're moving you're in sharp pain, that's not a good situation. So getting that looked at is important. So today we'll focus a lot of attention on moving the joints and just getting things mobile and feeling that unthawing kind of quality that comes with spring. So meet you on the mat. We'll start lying down today. So you can come to lie down on your mat, lying down on your back. Getting yourself comfortable will take a moment to feel grounded and centered before we actually start our movement practice today. So let's take a moment to tune into the breath. And you can be in any position that's comfortable. If lying down doesn't work for you, feel free to sit, have your knees bent or straight if you're lying down. And then tuning into the breath, and we'll start by tuning into that grounded feeling that we were trying to connect with last week, and a sense of softening and sinking down into the earth, especially as you exhale. So a feeling of dropping down, letting go, softening the tension that you may be aware of in your body. So as much as you're aware of the exhalation and that feeling of dropping down, bring a little bit of awareness also to the inhalation. A feeling of being a little bit lifted with the inhale. I'm sorry, I'm being attacked by my cat if you're not looking at the screen, so I apologize. So feeling a sense of expansion, lifting and opening with your inhale, as well as a feeling of softening, sinking down and dropping into the earth with your exhalation. Ow. And then let the breath deepen naturally a little bit. So we're not forcing the breath or creating any sense of strain or struggle with the breath at all, but feeling a sense of a little bit of a deeper inhale, a fuller exhale, and feel yourself maybe invite a little bit of energy with that deepening breath. And then when you're ready to begin some movement, you can bring the knees up in toward the chest. Just give the knees a little gentle hug till you feel the lower back lengthen and release a bit. And then you can move the knees forward and back. So knees away as you breathe in, knees towards you as you exhale. So feeling a continued sense of being connected to the earth, and at the same time, flowing movement with the breath. So when we're in a state of flow, there's a feeling that things unfold really effortlessly. Sometimes we call this being in the zone. And when our body feels free and easeful and light, the mind often follows. You can try making a few circles with your knees, massaging the lower back and the sacrum on the ground. Great, and then let's bring the feet to the floor. We'll stretch the arms up toward the ceiling and do some circles with the wrists. You can keep your hands open or make fists with your hands. Getting the synovial fluid flowing around the wrists. Give the hands a little shake, arms a little shake, and then you can bring your fingers together and interlace your fingers. Press the palms up toward the ceiling, stretching the palms and the wrists a little bit. And then turning the hands over, we'll take the arms wide and bringing the backs of the hands to the ground. Reach the fingertips away from each other and feel some expansion through your arms. And then as you take your next breath, you'll take a big breath in here and then exhale, cross your arms over your chest, coming to opposite shoulders, giving yourself a hug and taking a few breaths here. Whichever arm is on top, we'll do the opposite next time. So you'll open the arms wide again, reach out with your fingertips. And then with an exhale, crossing the arms, the opposite arm on top this time, across your chest, feeling a little space maybe in the back of your body as you breathe here. And then opening the arms wide. Take a few breaths in here. And then another big breath in, and you can bring the right knee into your chest and let the hands come around the knee or behind the thigh. Taking another few breaths to feel your thigh soften toward your belly. We'll work a little bit with the moving in the knee joint. So you can either keep your hands behind the leg or move them away as you straighten and bend that leg. If you want to coordinate your breath here, inhale as you lift the leg and exhale as you bend the knee. Feeling the front of the thigh engage and pull up as the hamstrings stretch. There's this opposite action in the leg, front to back. And then you can leave the leg in the air if it's helpful for you. You might hold on as you circle the ankle around, bringing some flow and fluidity into the ankle joint. So we're not trying to get a great big stretch here. We're really just trying to engage the muscles with some movement and rotation and invite a little bit of elasticity and flow through that action. You can press the heel toward the ceiling to feel a little bit more engaged through the back of the leg, a little more stretch through the back of the leg, a little more engaged through the shin and the thigh and quadriceps. Good. And then relax your foot and keeping the joints nice and relaxed, give the leg a little bit of a shake. And then release that foot to the floor. And you might straighten both legs for a moment and notice, tune in, check in. What does the right leg feel that we just did a little bit of work with compared with the left leg? So sometimes the word prana is used in yoga. Prana is often translated as a life force energy. We could also relate this to the idea of flow. When we feel engaged in our lives, we feel this sense of flow and things moving in a way that feels uh, easeful. And may also feel this flow as circulation, so maybe warmth or tingling in an area of the body where you've just done some work. Well, let's bend both knees again. So lengthening and flattening the lower back. And we'll bring the left knee in now, and you can either hold behind or over the shin. Have a sense of relaxing that thigh in toward the chest. And then again, we'll straighten and bend the knee just to feel a little bit of stretch in the back of that leg and releasing. You can do that holding on to the leg or not, as is better for you. And then after a few times of straightening and bending the knee joint, holding the leg there, and a little bit engaged through the quadriceps to lengthen the hamstrings. If it's too much, bend your knee a little bit and try circling your ankle. It's always helpful to keep the mind engaged by tuning in to the sensations in your body. I should say it's often helpful. Sometimes those sensations can actually be a distraction that leads us elsewhere. But if we can tune in and really feel what's going on, that can help to keep us more present. And after you've circled the ankle a few times each direction, you can relax the ankle and the knee joint and give the leg a little shake here. Right, and then bend your knee, bringing your foot to the floor. And again, let's take the legs and extend them out. Let both legs relax for a moment and tune into what you notice, what you're aware of in terms of energy or flow in most particularly the left leg now, but could be both, as we've both worked with both so far. So that last one worked a lot with the knee and the ankle joints. We'll work a little more with the hip joint now. So we'll keep the left leg straight and bring the right knee into the chest. Now, you want to keep the left leg active, a little bit engaged, toes point up, heel presses down. And then you can, again, bring the hands to gently draw in the right knee, either over the knee or behind the knee. And then we'll add some movement for the hip joint. So this is a nice way of moving the hip joint because it's non-weight bearing. So we're not standing. We can also do movement standing, but there's a little more pressure on the joint, which may or may not be helpful. So here, creating some movement, and it could be a circular type oval movement, or maybe a forward and back movement that comes inward and outward, toward and away from the body. Or maybe it's just a straight side to side kind of movement. The hand can stay on the knee or move away from the knee if you want to find a little more movement here. Right, and eventually coming back into the body, give a little squeeze and release. Again, stretching that leg out and maybe taking a moment to notice the difference between the two hips. So we did a little bit of movement in the right hip, not so much yet in the left hip. Can you feel a difference? And if you don't, that's fine. It doesn't mean you've done something wrong. We're really just trying to become a little more aware, a little more engaged with what's going on. And then you can bring the left knee in. Again, right leg stays active and engaged. The heel on the ground, toes pointing toward the ceiling, thigh drawing up toward the hip. And then some movement for the left hip. So again, any movement that feels good for you. And remember, we're not trying to go past our edges here, really trying to find a movement that feels easeful. And again, as I said earlier, if you have constant pain in your joints, they still need to move. You want to find a way, though, to make that movement feel as easeful as possible, so it's not painful, even if there's a bit of creakiness or discomfort there. And eventually coming back to the center, and you can place that foot on the floor, stretch the leg out, and again, let both legs relax and notice the sensations, whatever you're aware of in the area of your hips. Take a couple of nice full breaths. Good. And then let's bend the knees and bring the feet to the floor, and we'll work a little bit with the lower back and the outer hips with the gentle twist here. So arms to the sides. And if you want a little bit more kind of opening across the chest and shoulders, you can raise the arms a little bit to feel a bit of stretch in the chest and shoulders, upper arms. And then as you exhale, knees go one way, the head might turn the other way. And then you'll inhale back to center and exhale to go the opposite direction. So go at your own pace, finding your own unique rhythm and flow. So we're not having to move at any particular pace, not even important to follow the breath if that creates tension for you. So much better to do the movement freely, easily, and let the breath be free if that's better for you. Right, eventually returning the knees to the center. And you can, again, bring your knees into your chest. And just as we started with today, moving the knees away from you with a breath in, moving the knees towards you as you breathe out. So we often come back to this symmetrical, easeful movement between poses or sets of poses to bring the spine and the hips back to a sense of being balanced, equal, and aligned. And then as you're ready, you can let the feet come down to the floor with the heels lined up underneath the knees, and the arms can come out to the sides and rest on the ground. Palms up if that's comfortable for your shoulders, or arms can be a little closer, palms down if you prefer that position. We'll keep the arms nice and relaxed as we press into the feet and start to lift the spine. And you might think about lifting the vertebrae one by one, as long as that's comfortable for you. If you don't have any back issues or any serious back pain, in which case definitely be checking with your doctor before doing yoga. Otherwise, rolling up and rolling down, like you're massaging the back along the ground as you lift and lower. Don't worry about what your breath is doing. Just breathe freely here. Let the movement flow at a pace that feels just right for you. Stimulating the fascia that supports the spinal cord with this movement. You might hold for a couple of breaths and find as much ease in the holding of this pose as possible. So this pose is by its nature quite grounded, the feeling of the legs really working, the feet on the ground, the arms heavy, the shoulders and the head on the ground, but also a feeling of expansion, lifting, lightness, and openness if you can connect to that feeling as well. Good. Let's slowly release down. And bring the knees into the chest, and then any movement that would feel good. So it might be repeating the forward and back movement, or perhaps circling the knees, or even holding the knees and simply rocking side to side. And then let's bring the feet to the floor, and we'll work a little bit more with the shoulders. So you can start with the arms down at your sides, and we'll take the arms and lift them up so that they're facing the ceiling. Turn the palms to face each other, and reach the arms up toward the ceiling. Big breath in here, and as you exhale, let the arms sink down, shoulders to the ground. And then inhale, lift. Exhale, release. Okay, and then letting the shoulders relax on the ground, you can keep raising the arms up overhead. Maybe turning the palms toward the ceiling, and then lowering them straight back down to your sides. So lifting the arms, and you want to really tune in to where your stopping point is overhead. You might come to the ground, or you might use a blanket or blocks behind you to stop the movement, you know, where it feels right for you. So some people will find a little restriction, and it feels good to have a place to stop at rather than forcing beyond that. So you could use blocks or a blanket to stop there, or just feel within your body, when do your shoulders say that's enough? And you can stop there and come back. So really tuning in, noticing, finding that flow and rhythm that honors your shoulders and any restrictions that they might have. So we'll bring a little flow into this movement. So next time the arms are coming down, we're going to bring the knee, right knee into the chest. Stay there. Reach up. Bend in. Reach out with the leg along the ground, up with the arms overhead. And then you're going to reach straight up with the legs, straight up with the arms to bring the leg in. And then we'll repeat that. So leg goes to the floor, keeping your stomach muscles engaged, leg lifting up. You can invite a little more stretch if you like, as long as you're not straining. As the leg comes up, you can bring the hands behind the thigh. Good. Next time the leg is on the ground, the arms are overhead, you'll lower the arms and bend the knee. So we'll flow with the other side. Inhaling, arms lift. Exhaling, knee comes in. Inhaling, leg stretches up. Good, let's exhale here. And then we'll release the leg and the arms away from each other, inhaling as they come towards the ground, exhaling as they come towards each other. Keep your abdominal muscles working, lower back close to the ground. So here we start to bring flow in, working with some strongly engaged abdominal muscles. Next time the leg comes to the ground and arms are overhead, you can bend the knee and lower the arms. So the next one gets a little more challenging. We'll lift both legs at the same time using the stomach muscles. If it feels too much for you, you'll keep the knees bent or go back to one leg at a time. If it's possible for you, legs straight is an option here. But we'll start with knees bent. So most people without any kind of particular special needs will likely be able to do the bent leg version. The straight leg version is a lot more challenging, and you want to make sure you're not bringing tension. So better to work with bent knees and ease with bent knees, or rather than straight legs and lots of tension. So we'll start with the arms down. Same pattern with the breath. Inhale, lift. And then exhale, engage your stomach muscles, lift your legs, and you can bring the hands either behind the legs or to the floor. So the knees bend as you bring them down, arms lift, you're breathing in, and then exhaling, knees lift, arms come to the legs or to the ground. So that's the most simple version here. And if that still feels like a little too much for you, then you're going to work with one leg at a time. And for those of you who find two legs together is still pretty easy, you can take the legs straight out on the ground and do the same thing. So you're lifting up with the arms, lifting the legs as you lower the arms, lowering the legs as you lift the arms. A little bend can be helpful if you're straining, or a full bend, or straight legs. Great, and then next time your legs come to the ground, whether they're bent or straight, you'll lower the arms to the ground as well. Stretch out both legs. Relax the feet, let them fall away from each other, arms a little away from your body in that typical Shavasana position. If it's more comfortable, bend your knees or bring your arms, hands to the body if you prefer, and take a few breaths here. Notice that feeling or any feeling that you may be experiencing of a little flow, motion, maybe a sense of tingling or warmth in the body. So notice what's present. Get a couple more breaths here, and then we'll switch positions. So when you're ready to come upright, you can bend your knees, bringing your feet again to the floor if they weren't there already, and roll over onto one side. And use your opposite hand to help support you as you come upright. When you come to an upright position, you just come right over to all fours. And let's start with some movement for the spine. So that flow of the spine made up of lots of little interlocking bones with discs between, and we want to keep the spine mobile through the whole length of the spine. Of course, it moves more freely at the neck and the low back where there's no ribs attached to the spine there. We want to try to find movement through the whole spine so that the pelvis is moving, the upper back is moving, as well as the lower back and the neck. And you might even think about having the movement originate from your tailbone and then ripple from there. So if you start with a flat spine and start to think about just lifting your tailbone a little bit, and then as though like dominoes, the whole spine starts to respond and come into an arch. And then if you start by tipping your tailbone under, and then the whole spine starts to curl around and the head comes in. So tail starts, and the body uncurls from there. Make sure you're not locking at the elbows. You don't want to lock any joints here. And then the tail starts, the spine round. So don't worry about your breath here. Too many balls to juggle, trying to move slowly enough to feel that movement from the tail to the crown of the head. Anytime you need to, you can come back to child's pose, take a little break, maybe do some movement for your wrists here if you feel like you're straining at all with your weight on your wrists. You can rest with your head on your hands or on the ground for a few breaths. And then when you're ready, let's come back up to all fours and see if you can find that same movement that originates from the tail, but in a side-to-side movement. So you'll move the hips to one side and the whole body will start to curl around to that side. And then you'll move the hips the other way and the body will curl around to that side. So the hips move, and then you start to find a little snake-like movement. And you can add a little rounding, maybe circling the hips. So feel that whatever the hips do, the rest of the spine and the head kind of respond in that ripple effect. You don't have to think about it too much. So if you think about the hips moving one way, the other, circling, and then allow the rest of the body to just go with that flow. Maybe you want to shift your hips back to your heels and circle. So there's no rules here. Take some time, find some movement, find your own flow. And again, if you want to rest in child's pose at any point, take that option. Take a few breaths there. And then from child's pose, we can come to sit up on the heels, or I know this is not comfortable for many people with the knees and ankles, so you might come right up to this position up off your heels rather than being back on your heels. And if you find any uncomfortable pressure on your knees, I've got a carpet and a mat, but if you're a little less padding, you might want to put a blanket under your knees. So whether you're here or here to start is fine. You'll start and end in this position wherever you are now. And we'll take the arms up, taking a breath in. You can find a little bit of a back bend, so reaching the chest toward the ceiling, and then exhale and bring your hands down, your head toward the ground, child's pose. Come up to all fours. If downward dog is a good option for you, you can go there. Otherwise, back to child's pose. And then back down to all fours. Back to child's pose. Lifting all the way up. And then back where you started. So if you want to coordinate the breathing with this movement, which helps to engage the mind a little more and make things a little more fluid in our flow, you could inhale as you come upright. Exhale as you come to child's pose. If I'm breathing at a pace or moving at a pace that doesn't work for you, adjust. Inhale all fours. Exhale, downward dog or back to child's pose. Good. Inhale, back to all fours. Good. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, high kneeling. And exhale, back to where you started. So the next time we go through this movement, we'll work on stepping forward from downward dog into lunge. If you have blocks and you have them handy, it's a lot easier. If you struggle with this move, which many people do, blocks will make your arms a little longer, so you can use your blocks. And before we go there, I'll give you a quick demonstration of how to help make this a little bit easier. So blocks certainly help, getting your hands a little higher. From downward dog, sometimes being a little closer is a bit easier. Come up onto your toes and bend your knees. So you feel lots of length in your torso and your arms. And then from there, you might find it helpful to raise one leg up. You can breathe in here, and as you exhale, bring your around your back like a cat, bring your knee up toward your chest and step forward. Now, often we get stuck somewhere here, right? If that's the case, you can always bring the back knee down, bring the front foot forward, or whatever it takes to get the foot there. But really sucking up in the belly, gives you a lot more space to get that knee up toward your chest. So let's try something before we go into that movement. You can have your hands on the ground on all fours and try stretching one leg straight back. And then as you exhale, round your back and try and get your knee as close to your chest as you can. And then stretch out again, breathe in. And then exhale, round, and bring your knee up really close. You'll feel these muscles right in here that we were working when we were lifting the legs, working to really squeeze the knee in. And then try the other side a few times. So squeeze in as you exhale. So you really need to round the back to get that knee up. There's a natural arch as the leg lifts back. Rounding as the knee comes in. Good. So again, let's come back to our starting position for that kneeling sun salutation. And again, if you find blocks are helpful, you might have them ready and handy. We'll come from kneeling to high kneeling or high kneeling to arms raised. And then exhale, child's pose. Inhale, come to all fours. Here's where you might use your blocks. As you exhale, you'll come to downward dog. Come up onto your toes, bend your knees. You can stretch your right leg back. And then as you exhale, squeeze up through the belly and step that foot forward. So take your time. If you didn't quite get there, again, you could lower the back knee or help your leg a little bit with one hand. So coming into a lunge position, and then we're going to step back to downward dog and try the other side. So you can lift one leg coming onto your toes with a little bit of bend in the standing leg, and then squeeze up to swing through. Again, once you find lunge, and that might take you a few tries to get there, pause and lunge for a couple of breaths. And then from here, let's step back, lower down, all fours, breathing in, and then exhale, child's pose. From child's pose, high kneeling, lifting up. Good. And exhale to come back to where you started. So the next move, optional, more really about having a bit of fun with this, not so much about any particular pose. So the other option to get the feet forward from downward dog is to jump them forward. So we can try that. If you don't feel comfortable with that concept, you're just going to step forward one leg at a time, no problem. If you want to try the hopping, again, blocks help because it creates a little more space. It makes the arms a bit longer. So to hop, you come into downward dog. You're going to, again, come up onto your toes, bend your knees a little bit. This time, look where you're going. And you're going to hop after you exhale. So you'll take a breath in, a breath out, and then hop your feet forward. Now, again, you might get stuck partway. Maybe your hop isn't so effective. You can always walk your feet a bit forward from there. So from here, let's take the hands to the shins and lengthen. Exhale as you fold forward. You can keep your knees bent, let your head hang down, and take a few breaths here. And then we'll come all the way upright, reaching up overhead with the arms, and then releasing down to your sides. So as we come to mountain pose, let's reconnect with the work that we were doing last week to feel grounded. So feeling, especially the heels, sink down into the earth, and you might even spread your toes out, wiggle them around and bring them back down. Maybe even check to see, could you see a little sliver of matte color between each toe? And then gently pulling up on the thighs as you release down from the sit bones into the ground through the heels. So there's kind of this circle of energy going down the back of your legs into the earth and pulling up the front of the legs. So there's this sort of downward and upward energy at the same time. We talked last week about the lower body going down as the upper body moves up. And yet we don't want to be rigid in this pose. So the arms just hang. So we're not reaching down and forcing the shoulders down, but having a sense that the shoulders drop away from the ears as the arms become heavy and the crown of the head lifts toward the ceiling. And take a few breaths here in mountain posture or Tadasana, the Sanskrit name. So we'll keep working with the joints when we move into a different position. Sometimes there's different forces or different effects to the movement. So we talked about the hips having no weight bearing on them when we were lying down. And now there is a little, the upper body is weighting down onto the hips. So we might feel this movement a little bit differently. So you can start to move the hips around. See if you can keep the head in the same place as you move the hips around in a circle. So again, that movement is originating from the pelvis and rippling up through the body. But the feet and the head stay in place. So maybe try circling the other way. Right, and then let's come back to the center and keep the knees soft. So we really rarely want to lock a joint. I'm going to keep the joint supple and soft. So with the knees soft, we'll bring one shoulder forward, roll it back, and then the other shoulder rolls back. And you can go side to side like that. Just finding that flow through the whole body. And then reverse directions, go the other way. Right, and then let's come back to the center. You can keep the feet a little bit wider as they are with maybe about shoulder width apart. Again, knees soft, and let's turn one palm open, lift up toward the ceiling as you breathe in, and then as you exhale, reaching over to the side. Inhale, come up, switch arms as you inhale, and then exhale, releasing to the other side. So coming up, really lengthening both sides of the torso, keeping that length as you reach up and over. The upper shoulder moves back a little bit. Find your own natural flow here. If it doesn't feel natural flowing with your breath, just a little movement side to side. As long as you're breathing, it's all good. Let's do one more to either side. Great, and then releasing the arm down, and we'll come up the center with both arms. Good, big circle, reaching down toward the ground. Do keep a softness in your knees. Let the head release down, and then come all the way up, breathing in. And exhale to flow forward. A couple more at your own pace, finding your own flow, your own rhythm with the movement, your own rhythm with your breath. If you like, you can stay a few breaths here. It could be with your elbows on your thighs, or maybe your hands on your
thighs or reaching toward the ground, maybe with the arms straight or crossed over. When you're ready to come up, you'll release the arms, lift all the way up. And exhale to release. And we'll bring the feet in again so they're under the hips. And we'll work with Utkatasana or Ardha Utkatasana, the half chair or pose or half squat pose where we squat down a little bit. So in this pose, when you bend your knees and squat down, rather than pushing the knees forward and the hips forward, think about the knees trying to stay over the ankles, the hips moving back, and then there's a little arch in the back as you try to keep your upper body upright. So let's try that a few times, moving dynamically. So we take a breath in and raise the arms up. You can bring the hands to your thighs as you exhale and sit down. And then inhale to lift. Exhale to sit. And a couple more. Again, a little bit more weight bearing on the joints. So be kind to your knees if it feels like a strain. Don't go down quite as far. Great. And then let's release the arms and stay upright. So we're going to add a twist to this pose. So in the twist, what we'll do is you'll have the hands together with the elbows apart. Depending how your wrists are, the elbows may not be, the lower arms may not be in a straight line, but it may be up a little bit. But you want to try to find that line from elbow to elbow as straight as possible. And then when we come down into the squat, we're going to take the elbow. So if you've got your right elbow, you're going to take it to the inside of your right thigh above the knee. And then if you press in with the leg, out with the arm, and press the palms together, turn to look at the upper elbow. And then come back to the center, and we'll try the other side. So you bend the knees. You're going to take the other elbow to the inside of the leg on the same side. So you're not crossing over, coming to the same side. Press in with the leg, out with the elbow, and turn to look to your upper elbow. And then come up and release. So we'll do this as a bit of a flow, a bit of a series. So you'll take the arms up with a breath in. Bring the palms together, exhale, come down into the half squat. Inhale here, and then exhale, one elbow, doesn't matter which, the inner knee on the same side or inner thigh, looking to the other side. Take a breath here. Inhale back to center, can stay low. Exhale to go to the other side. A breath here. And then come back to the center. Inhale, lift all the way up. And exhale, arms down. Again, inhale and lift. Hands together, exhale, half squat. Inhale, lengthen your spine. Exhale, twist. Inhale and exhale here. And then you'll inhale to center. Exhale the other way. You'll inhale and exhale here. And then inhale to lift all the way up. And exhale to release. Okay, give it a little shake. So let go of any tension you might have brought into that pose. And come back to mountain pose, feeling a sense again of being grounded, letting go of the effort of the chair pose. Right. And then we're going to come toward the front of the mat. If you've got blocks and they're still at the front of the mat, you may just want to get them out of your way. Again, press down into your heels. Feel your pelvis come back over your heels rather than being weighted on the balls of the feet and collapsed in the lower back. So here we'll take a breath in, lifting up. Exhale to fold forward. We're going to step the feet back to plank. If you like, you could hop your feet back. But simplest way to get there, one foot then the other. And from your plank pose, you'll lower your knees. So you want your body from knees to hips to shoulders in a straight line. And then bend your elbows, and you can let your back arch a little as you roll your body slowly to the ground. And then hands come forward. You're going to press down into your hips and thighs, forehead down. And with that really anchored feeling through the lower body, let your upper body be as light as possible as you inhale and lift the chest and head, and exhale to lower down. Continue, keep the lower body engaged and active, upper body as light as possible as you inhale and lift, and exhale and lower. And then we'll slide the hands back. So next time you come down, slide the hands back by the ribs, lift up to all fours. And then any movement that would feel good here. So cat-cow, or moving from the cow to child's pose. Or maybe you want to go back to wagging the tail or circling the hips, and maybe even rediscovering that fluidity of movement through the spine. And then if you like child's pose and you want to rest there for a few breaths, feel free. Otherwise, we're going to make our way onto our backs for a little bit more movement there before we take a little rest to end the class. So as you come onto your back, and start with your knees bent, feet flat on the floor. We'll take the right knee or right ankle over the left thigh, and looking for a little bit of stretch in the outer right hip. For some of you, having the left foot on the ground will be enough stretch. For others, you might appreciate just a little bit more stretch by placing a block under your foot, which brings the legs closer to the body. Or you might be able to reach your hands, or maybe use a belt, if you have one handy, to reach your hands behind your left thigh. So here, making this a little more dynamic by rocking side to side. And then whenever you're ready, you can switch sides. So left ankle over the right, drawing the legs in any amount that you need to feel a bit of stretch. Most people feel it in the outer hip of the leg that's up. You might feel it in the inner thigh. If you're feeling a lot of tension or pulling or twisting in the knee, back off. So go less rather than more. So the knee is a bit vulnerable in this pose. If your hip is tight, the knee may try to take the twist. So again, you can rock a bit side to side. And then as you're ready, releasing, uncrossing your legs. And again, stretch out the legs on the ground. Take the arms and extend them overhead, reaching toes toward the ceiling, heels reaching away from the hips, fingers reaching away from the shoulders. Couple of breaths here. And then you can lower the arms. And if you like, you can bend the knees and bring your knees one more time into the chest. If you're already feeling quite relaxed and ready to continue with Shavasana, you can just stay where you are with the legs on the ground, or bend the knees to a more comfortable position if that works better for you. The hands could rest on your body, or on the floor. And if your knees are bent, you might try taking the feet wider so the knees fall together, so there's really no effort in holding the legs. Another option is straighter legs with a blanket folded or a cushion under the knees to give that little bit of lift. So wherever you find yourself, wherever is comfortable for you, if it's more comfortable to sit, that's an option as well. So you're going to come back to an awareness of the movement of your breath. And perhaps again, tuning into that feeling of settling and softening as you exhale. And a feeling of gently expanding, opening, and lifting as you inhale. So the exhale, letting go, feeling yourself sink into the earth, releasing any tension or holding you may have inadvertently brought to the practice today. Feel the muscles around your jaw and face begin to relax, and let the weight of your head sink into the earth. Let your tongue release, the neck and throat soften. And then find a feeling of dropping down through your shoulders, relaxing the arms, the wrists, and the hands. Releasing the rib cage, so you feel that the ribs get a little heavier. The lower back releasing, the abdominal muscles letting go. Feel the weight of your pelvis sink down and see if you can soften any of the muscles around the pelvis, the lower abdominal area, the hips, the buttocks. Softening right down to the base of the spine at the pelvic floor as much as possible. And then feeling the legs release, the thighs, the knees, calves, ankles, and feet letting go. And again, coming back to the breath and this sense of gentle opening and expansion. With the inhale, a softening, sinking down and letting go as you exhale. Wherever we're holding tension in the body, we're restricting the flow of energy. So part of finding our state of flow, of ease in the body, is being aware of the tension that we carry and letting it go in whatever way we're able. Through breath, through visualization, through movement, finding our state of flow. Let's take a few more breaths here to be in this place of relaxation. And of course, if you want to stay longer, you can simply ignore the instructions to come out of Shavasana. And if you're ready to move on with your day after a short rest, you can let the breath deepen a little bit now, inviting a little more breath in without straining. Releasing a little more on your exhale again without forcing or pushing the breath. And then gradually let the breath return to its absolutely normal, easeful flow, whatever that is for you. And I should say that maybe normal, maybe easeful isn't normal for you, but returning the breath to what does feel normal for you. Especially in the season of cold and flu, there's lots of issues with the breath now. So if your breath feels a little strained, acknowledge that, but come back to as much ease as you can. And then as you're ready, if you're coming out of Shavasana, you can do a little movement, stretch a little, roll onto your side. Take your time to come back to sit. And as you go about the rest of your day today, taking with you this idea of finding ease, finding flow. So we all feel much, much better when we're in that state where things are moving smoothly. And we can help that along by finding that fluidity and movement in our breath, in our bodies, and inviting it into our mental and psychological states as well. Bringing your palms together. Namaste.